Okay, there are four things that you should remember when using the law of sines and the law of cosines. The first one is to always round to 3 decimal places. The second one is to be sure to use stored values in your calculator. Number 3, remember to use the degree symbol on all angles. And number 4, make sure your calculator is in degrees mode. Okay. The law of cosines, there are 3 different equations depending on what information you are given. If you take a second and study the equations, you'll notice that they are very similar to each other, just the sides and the angles are switched around depending on which angle you either know or want to solve for. Now that this is focused, I will give you about 5 seconds if you want to pause it so you can copy down the 3 equations. Okay, we are going to use these equations to solve our first triangle. In our first triangle, we are given a side, where side A is 9, B is 7, and C is 5. What I like to do is first of all draw out the triangle so I know what I'm looking at. Also, after I've drawn out the triangle, I like to put exactly what we need to solve for. So in this case, we need to find all our angle measures. So we need angle A, B, and C. I'm going to go ahead and box it so I know where I should put my answers at. Okay, so what we are going to do is we can solve for any of the 3 angles first. We are going to go ahead and start with angle A just because it's the top one listed. So since we want to find angle A, if we look at our 3 choices for our equations, we have to use the top one because that's the only one that includes angle A in it. So using that equation, we have A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C times the cosine of A. So what you're going to do is you're just going to plug in all your values. Okay, once your values are plugged in, you can use your calculator and you can enter in your data that you know. So we want to solve here for sine of A. So we can go ahead and do some calculations here. And I'm just going to take 9 squared, oops, and I'm going to do some algebra at the same time. So I'm just going to subtract 7 squared minus 5 squared. So I get 7 because we want to eventually solve for the cosine of A. Equals, and then negative 2 times 7 times 5 is negative 70. Alright, from there we're just going to divide by negative 70. So we get negative 0.1 equals the cosine of A. Now to find A, we're just going to do the inverse cosine. Okay. Oops. And we would get angle A equals 95.739 degrees. And I'm going to go ahead and store this into our calculator. So store alpha A, and that'll be stored as A. I put a little star here on my paper to remind me that I stored that as A. Okay, now for practice, what I want you to do is do the same thing with this to find angle B. Okay, just to practice, use this equation, the second one here, where it says B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C times the cosine of B. Okay, doing the exact same thing, find angle B. Okay, doing so, you should have got angle B to be 50.704 degrees. Okay, now since you already have your A value or A angle stored and your B value is either in your calculator or you stored that yourself, you can take 180 minus A minus B to get your C value, which is going to be 33.557 degrees. Okay, so this would be the answer to triangle in number 1. All right, let's try another one. In this second example, we have a side angle side. All right, so again, I'm just going to sketch the triangle. Okay, so we have two sides in the included angle, so we have to use the law of cosines again. And as soon as that focuses, all right, I think it focused. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we already have two of our sides, so let's go ahead and find our remaining side C first, since that's going to be the easiest thing to do here. So if we find C, we know that C squared is going to equal A squared plus B squared minus 2AB times the cosine of C. So we can just plug everything in. C squared is going to equal 10 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 10 times 12 times the cosine of 50 degrees. Now, you can plug everything on the right-hand side there of your equation into your calculator at once. If you do so, you're going to get 89.731. All right, and then you just take the square root of it, and you will find that C equals 9.473. And I'm going to store that into my calculator as well. I forgot to do this earlier. Okay, so we have done that. And once we have that value of C stored into our calculator, we can go ahead and use that to find angle B or A. Okay, so I'm just going to enter this in right here. Okay, now it doesn't matter if you find B or A first, so I'm just going to go ahead and find angle A. So using the equation, A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times the cosine of A. I'm going to plug in everything I know. All right, it's very important that you store the C value whenever you go to enter it in here. So we have 10 squared equals 12 squared plus whatever our C was squared minus 2 times 12 times our C again times the cosine of A. Now we want exact values, so you must use the stored value of C here. All right, if we simplify this out, we will get negative 133.731 equals negative 227.343 cosine of A. If we divide, we end up getting that the cosine of A equals 0.588. And then when we do the cosine inverse, we'll find that A is 53.968 degrees. Once you have your angle A, you can go ahead and subtract 180 minus A minus 50 degrees, which is our C angle, and get B, which is 76.032 degrees. Okay? All right, now, there's a couple of good things about using the law of cosines that differs from the law of sines. With the law of cosines, remember that cosine is restricted from 0 to 180. And in any given triangle, you're never going to have an angle larger than 180. So using the law of cosines, you're always going to get the correct angle measure. But however, there are some issues that you need to look at whenever you try to mix the law of sines and the law of cosines, because obviously using the law of sines is a lot easier and quicker than using the law of cosines, as you can see from it today. So let's look at another example where we can kind of use both, and let's discuss the issues with using both. So let's say that you have an angle, or a triangle, sorry, with angle B is 35, angle C, angle side A is 43, and side C is 19. Okay, so this is what our triangle looks like right now. Okay, so if we go ahead and first of all find our side B, because that's going to be the easiest. Remember, we need to find side B, angle A, and angle C. Okay, so let's go ahead and find side B. So we're going to use the equation B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine of cosine of B. So plugging in everything that we know. Alright, now you can plug everything on the right hand side again into your calculator, and you're going to get 871.506. I know I'm giving you these numbers quickly. You might want to make sure that in your calculator that you are getting the exact same answer so that you don't mess up on a test or a quiz. So I would take the time to practice entering that into your calculator and then taking the square root of it to get 29.521. Be sure to store that into your calculator right away. Okay. All right, once we have side B, we know side B is 29.521. And we all know that the law of sines is a lot easier than the law of cosines. And if we have angle B and we have the side across from angle B, we can use the law of sines here. Okay, so if we set it up to use the law of sines with angle A, what's going to happen is we get the sine of 35 degrees over side B, which is our stored value, equals the sine of A over 43. Okay, if we cross multiply here, we are going to get angle A to equal 56.664 degrees. Okay, so if we plug that in, 56.664 degrees, go ahead and store that into your calculator. And if we take 180 minus 35 minus 56.664, we're going to get 88.336 degrees. Okay, so that's just using the law of sines. Now let me enter in everything we got up here in our triangle so you can see this. Okay, now I want you to take a minute and look at the triangle and see if you can figure out what is wrong with that triangle. Okay, the problem with the triangle is, to be a valid solution, the longest side must be opposite of the longest angle. And the shortest side must be opposite of the shortest angle, smallest angle. Any solution that violates this is invalid. If you look up here at the triangle one more time, our longest side is 43. Is angle A our biggest angle? No. So that means that this triangle is not valid. So this is not a triangle. However, there is a triangle possible here. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take, since we found angle A first, just like what we did with the law of sines yesterday, is we're going to take 180 degrees minus our stored A angle. When we do that, we get 123.2 336 degrees. Okay, so this here is going to be our angle A. We can use that to find our angle C by taking 180 minus this angle A minus 35 degrees, which was given as our B value. So that gives us angle C as being 21.664 degrees. And then our B value was correct before as 29.521. Okay? So just be sure that if you decide you want to take the shortcut and use the law of sines, that you make sure that you check and make sure it's a valid triangle. Now, if in the previous problem, if we would have decided to use the law of cosines to find side A, we would have got the correct answer right away. Okay, so yes, this law of sines is a little bit longer or shorter, but if you decide to use it, make sure that you check your answer. The law of cosines is a little bit longer. There's more opportunity to make error, so this decision is going to be up to you. But with the law of cosines, you will always get the correct angle first. Okay. All right, the next thing we need to talk about with the law of cosines and the law of sines is finding the area of a triangle. Okay, so there are actually two equations to find the area of a triangle depending on what you're given. Okay, in this first one, if you were given two sides and the included angle, it's very simple. Okay, you have the area of the triangle equals 1/2 B times C times the sine of A, which is equal to 1/2 times A times C times the sine of B, which is equal to 1/2 A times B times the sine of C. So depending on which side and angles you're given will determine which one of those equations you use. Okay, so let's look at the first example here. It says find the area of the triangle ABC if A equals 2 inches, B equals 5 inches, and C equals 110 degrees. So if we draw this out, C is 110, side A is 2, and side B is 5. Okay, so what we can do is we can go ahead and we're going to end up using the last equation here. The area of the triangle is equal to 1/2 AB sine of C. So the area of this triangle is going to equal 1/2 2 times 5 times the sine of 110 degrees. Plug this all into your calculator and you're going to get the area of the triangle equals 4.698 inches squared. Okay, the last one is Heron's theorem. You need to use Heron's theorem whenever you are given 3 side lengths. So if you don't know any of the angles, you have to use Heron's theorem. I'm going to give it a second to focus here. Okay, so if you're given the 3 side lengths, A, B, and C, of a triangle ABC, first of all, you have to find what is called the semi-perimeter. Now to find that, you basically take the sum of all your sides, A, B, and C, and then you divide it by 2. Once you have this value of S, then you're going to use that to find the area of the triangle by taking the square root of S times S minus A times S minus B times S minus C. Okay, so first of all, if we're given this triangle ABC with all the side lengths, A is 13, B is 14, and C is 15. The first thing that, focus. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is find our S value. To find our S value, we're going to take 13 plus 14 plus 15 and divide all that by 2. When we do that, we get 21. Alright, once we find our S value, then we can find the area of our triangle. The area of our triangle is going to be the square root of 21 times 21 minus 13 times 21 minus 14 times 21 minus 15. Plug all that into your calculator and you will get 84 inches squared. Okay, now, just a side note, if your S value ends up being a decimal, you will want to store that decimal into your calculator as any letter, and then use the stored letter instead of, you know, whatever that number is. Okay, be sure that you are using the stored values for everything, because if you're 1 or 2 decimals off, your answer will not be correct. Okay, also make sure that your calculator is in degree mode. Okay, we round to 3 decimals all the time, and when you are finding an angle measure, make sure that you put the degree symbol with it.